Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another FCS logo ranking where today we're talking about the MEAC, or the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference.
Let's see how you like a little MEAC. Yeah, MEAC.
Had a great Christmas, although the biggest gift that I got was a sickness, so bear with me there. I'm still on the tail end of a sickness here. Hope you guys are going to have a great year. Transitioning from what hopefully was a really good year overall for most of you. We had a great year on this channel. Montana is playing for a title. Are the Grizz going to win against South Dakota State and Frisco, Texas? I agree. There are 8 teams that we're going to talk about today, although 2 of these teams don't have a football program. So there's only 6 teams that compete competitively in the MEAC conference in NCAA football. So let's go ahead and get started with what I consider the worst to what I consider the best logo in the MEAC conference. Starting at number 8, it's got to be Norfolk State University. Genuinely one of the worst logos that I've had to endure in my days of watching college athletics. This is awful. It has this kind of like 80s, 90s sort of like pastel thing going on where it's got a interesting sort of light texture on that green and it doesn't feel completely finished. You know what I mean? It kind of has this like hotel art sort of vibe to it with those Spartans there. This looks like something you might see in like an elementary school library. Like this reminds me of like my riff days back as a kid. If you're a child of the late 80s, early 90s, you might be able to experience or you might be able to understand what it is I'm saying here. That kind of pastel-y looking texture to it is it's very interesting, and it doesn't have that kind of aggressive or interesting or professional look that an NCAA Division I logo should have. We do kind of see glimmers of hope with Norfolk State with looking at some of these alternative identities, or like, you know, kind of like throwback logos even, that have a lot better contrast with green and yellow, which is one of the best color combinations. So what a waste, right? To have such an amazing color combination and to have this be the primary logo is horrible. Norfolk State, do better, man. This is awful logo. I'm not even going to be an apologist about this. I have family that lives in Norfolk. I grew up in Virginia as a kid, and wow, what a horrible logo. Sorry. At number 7, we've got Delaware State, home of the Hornets, who have had a recent rebrand in the last couple years. I remember this was not the primary logo. This is kind of new to me. I'm more used to seeing this logo here with the Hornet kind of coming at an angle with his big stinger ready to sting you. A lot of the times too, this team would just use that Hornet's head as sort of like alternate mark that was just a little bit easier to identify the team as, rather than this big detailed Hornet here. So I like the use of that head. And in fact, as recording this video on the MEAC website, they are still using this head, or rather than this new branding here. So maybe this branding hasn't really stuck the mark with most people. Definitely is not being used on the official MEAC website. So that sounds something right there. Like, I think that this logo, this new primary mark is pretty, it's okay. It's fine. It does keep the same color combination, which I enjoy. That red, white, and blue do look pretty nice together, and I do appreciate the symmetry that this new mark has. You know, that text does really bring it down. It's really difficult to read Delaware State, and you know, we can see that it's a Hornet, so like I just don't pick one or the other. Like, pick a word mark or pick just the Hornet itself. I think that this branding was a lot stronger when it was just a Hornet, or when it included DSU for Delaware State. There's very few other schools that are named DSU. This kind of does stand out in that regard. It's like, okay, DSU, Delaware State, that makes sense. I got it. They kind of reinvented something that didn't really need a whole lot of tweaking with to begin with. You know, maybe this isn't necessarily true, but from an outsider perspective, I think that maybe there is some kind of like little brotherism going on with, compared to University of Delaware, that has a little bit more prestige. They're actually moving up to the FBS division of NCAA Division I. They're coming out of the FCS, so pretty exciting future for Delaware, who has one of the best logos in college athletics. So yeah, Delaware State, you're trying, and I appreciate it, but this logo, I mean, it's not really doing much for me at all. At number 6, we've got North Carolina Central University, home of the Eagles. Nothing inherently bad about this logo. It's actually really good. So going from 6 to 1 here, we're looking at logos that I appreciate and I actually enjoy. But I have this ranked kind of lowest of the top 6. It's a weird way to phrase that. There's so many Eagles in college athletics, and they're about a dime a dozen. And so this, it looks good, but it looks like any other good-looking Eagle for any other team, really. There's nothing that really differentiates this as North Carolina Central, as opposed to the hundreds of other Eagles that are across college athletics and just, you know, sports in general. It's good. I like the colors a lot, and I like the aggressive angle that it's taking. It's, you know, it's swooping in. It's got an aggressive beak to it, and it looks really intense and fierce and ferocious. And I'm into all those things. All those elements are great, you know, and they're they're definitely worth celebrating here. This is a very strong logo. Honest to goodness, if you were held ransom and the only way to get you home was to name this school based on this logo, me personally, I'm never finding a way home. There's just no way I would know that this was North Carolina Central. I much prefer logos that have a little bit more to do with like the school itself and have a little bit more of a specific connection to the university or the institution that they represent. And this doesn't really have anything at all. It's just a cool looking eagle. Moving on to number 5, we've got Morgan State, home of the Bears, which we can see because right there in their logo, it says Morgan State Bears. Love that color combination. That looks awesome. And the actual font itself, or the typography for Morgan State, is really unique. It's got these cool serifs that kind of give it this like flashy edginess to it. There's like just a text-based logo right here. I'm really not a huge fan of like just text-based logos only, but I think that this looks sick based on those colors and the little serifs and the little shoo shoo shoo. Like it's just quippy. It's fast. Like it's sleek, and I like that. I really like this other version of this logo too that has like this sweeping bear coming across the top. Like looks like he's kind of punching you in the face, and I love that. I think that looks awesome. Morgan State, this is a sick logo. Big fan of this. Moving in at number 4 to begin our top half of the MEAC conference, we've got the South Carolina State Bulldogs. I love this logo so much. This has really not had to change at all, and like since they've been using it, really. This looks like a vintage logo because it really is in every single way. This is something they've been using for decades now. I love that. I think that's a fantastic idea because it has worked so well for so long. So why change it? There's really no reason to. This has a very varsity, vintage, collegiate look to it with a big S and the mascot, the bulldog, running through it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm a big fan of that. Big shout out, big respect to South Carolina State for using this logo. I love it. Just timeless looking logo. And kind of the same can be said for number 3, transitioning to the Maryland Eastern Shore Skyhawks. Scratch that. This is actually just the Maryland Eastern Shore Hawks. My bad. This also has a very old kind of vintage look to it, but this was actually changed from something that they had previously, which kind of had this fuller, symmetrical looking hawk. And I really like this. This is also very strong again with that symmetry. The colors here are great too. There's a lot of similar color designs actually in this in this conference, with like a maroon with some gray, white, and a little bit of black. So I think that this looks really awesome. But this new logo that they're using, I don't know if they've used it before in their history. I couldn't find like a detailed timeline on their logo history here, but this looks like it either was used historically for this team, or if it wasn't, they really drew on some inspiration from some of their older logos that they've used to design what they're using now, which has just a very retro vintage look to it. I like that they've kind of gone sort of like a step back for a step forward. Maryland Eastern Shore does not have a football team. They discontinued their program in the 80s from what I was reading. So they don't have a football team. That's okay though. Shout out to them. Still an awesome school. They have really strong programs in all their other sports, so we forgive them. The same can be said at number 2, Coppin State. Again, just a very vintage looking logo that they haven't really needed to change all that much throughout the years. So a lot of historic looking throwback logos being represented as primary logos in this league. Coppin State, which is also in Baltimore, has a unique little rivalry with Morgan State, both Baltimore schools. So love the little regional rivalry action that we can see in this conference there. And just a big fan of this vintage looking logo here with the eagle coming in through the letters. CSU for Coppin State. Big fan of this logo. Blue and yellow. Yeah, that looks awesome. Not a single negative thing I can say about this. Again, Coppin State without a football program, but it's all good because it is bowl season, and Coppin State, from what I read on Wikipedia, has a very strong women's bowling program. So big shout out to the women's bowling team of Coppin State. I can't do that snapping thing, so what you're hearing is the magic of post-production editing. And that's going to set us up for the number 1 logo in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. That's going to give us the Howard Bison out of Washington, D.C., a very recent rebrand, which was years in the making. They have needed this for so long because their previous logo here was literally just the Buffalo Bills logo. They say imitation is the highest form of flattery, but I mean, when you're just doing like a straight up copy paste job from one team to another, it does not lend itself well to sort of making your own mark in your branding and your identity. But this bison that they're rolling with now totally changes that. This is a very aggressive, fierce, tough, awesome looking bison that I'm a huge fan of. And I know that this is really going to separate from what they were to what they want to be as far as like finding their own mark, their own identity, their own branding. This is going to be extremely strong for decades to come. And Howard should be very proud and happy with this design. And y'all, that is going to do it for the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. We only have one more FCS conference to talk about. That is going to be the Big South and Ohio Valley Conference merger, which is a very, very unique conference. Actually, I'm super excited to talk about that one. We are going to do that next week, so be on the lookout for that. Subscribe if you're new here. And welcome to the channel if you're watching for the first time in 2024. Super happy to have you here and super stoked to get into some of the adventures and travels that we're going to be up to in 2024, some of the leagues and the logos and rankings. We are going to start talking about the FBS conferences as well. So be on the lookout for those. My New Year's goal does include one video every week. So every Saturday you can look forward to hanging out here on the channel with me as we're going to discuss conferences, leagues, logos, all that good stuff. So look forward to having you here. Thank you so much for all your support in 2023. Seriously, this has been just an incredible year of my life, and this channel has just been a huge compliment of what has been a fantastic year. So looking forward to keeping that momentum rolling in 2024. I hope everyone had a fantastic year. Thank you so much for all your support in 2023 and for hanging out with with us. I almost said me, but we've had Marty here pretty much this whole video. So thanks for hanging out with us. One final time, thank you guys. Sincerely appreciate all your support, and we will see you in 2024. Let's put this wackadoo year behind us and ring it in with a Grizz win for a natty title against South Dakota State. We'll see you guys next year. Thanks so much.